So I don't know how to explain it, but as you level up in life, life truly does not get any better or easier or anything in any way whatsoever. Like you think like, oh yeah, maybe life doesn't get any easier, but like I get stronger, right? And then if that happened, you'd be like, oh, well, that's gonna make life easier. And the exact same weakness, it's like the same magnitude of weakness, right? As you get stronger, everything else gets stronger. Like nothing changes. But as you go through the cycle, like if you consciously self-develop, or I guess start doing anything consciously just like screwing it up even, I guess. If you start doing anything consciously, you somehow get better at doing the exact same thing that you're doing, except it's like not, I guess what I'm trying to verbalize or conceptualize is like the better is not in any sort of improvement whatsoever. Like it just gets as bad over and over and over again, if not worse, as you like repeat the cycle. And it's like, obviously it's like, it's kind of from the complete gamification of life, to where it's like you have to come at the thing with play. And so everything, like the most horrible, worst possible things in the world, like I just went through a divorce, just what seems like a psychotic inability to be happy with somebody long term, right? Like the whatever the same problem is for all relationships, right, that we have with like anybody. Like what is it that makes it so that you can't get along with somebody? Or like I was everything in life was like perfect, and I was just like so depressed. And then you just want to change something or whatever, and it seems like it's if it's not the person, if you're super self-aware and you're like, oh, it's some sort of dynamic or whatever, but you go, oh, well, I'm having these like mental problems, like I'm not happy, or I feel whatever XYZ thing, isolated, blah blah blah, but you blame the other person, and then you break up. But then once you're broken up, you're like, why? There was no reason for me to be upset. I think I felt that with anybody that I've ever gone through any sort of relational difficulties with. Where in hindsight, I can never find any reason to be upset. Or like why I was upset. And that whole thing just spirals for everything. Like, why couldn't I be happy with that job? Why couldn't I be happy with, whatever? Why couldn't I be happy with being unhappy? Right? Which I guess it boils down to, why did I have to act? Like everything's provided, everything's great, relationships are always hard for reasons that are difficult to ever have self-awareness of, right? That's the craziest thing. Anytime you're gonna have a relationship, you think you understand all the problems, but it's a different set of problems with each person, but it's also exactly the same. But it's different enough that you have no idea how it's gonna pop up. There's no way to defend against it. Right? So as you go through life, you go, oh man, I had regrettable actions. Right? That's what you mean by like, oh, life's hard. Why is life hard? Because there's suffering. Why is there suffering? For me, it's because there's regrettable actions. And so if I was going to improve at life, it's usually I'm focused on preventing the regrettable actions, but that's probably not even how you calibrate, right? It's like, what's the body talking? And the body doesn't talk in regrets. It's like, how do you address your pain in this moment versus trying to address your idea of what you think causes pain, right? Addressing the idea of what we think causes us pain is suffering. So you have all these patterns and tendencies, right? Like in relationships, like, oh, it'll get better. Like if I do something, my dynamic with other people, my dynamic with my job, my dynamic with school, my dynamic with like anything will somehow get better. And it just doesn't. And like where it has gotten better, I've noticed making it better has made other things like horrifically worse. Like I improved everything about it. Yeah, like in my last relationship that didn't work. I hit everything. I did literally everything that I understood to do from analyzing all my past relationships. Like I knew what was like right. I knew what was the correct thing to want and the right goals. And I still think I'm right. Like I still think I'm right about all that stuff that I kind of like figured out. But the choice to like act the way that I act in order to like bring it about. No, I'm looking at it, like pushes and causes because it's like it's so arrogant to think that like, oh, I can change the situation, right? Like scientifically, philosophers have studied it, right? It's the I is the problem, right? So how incredibly arrogant would it be like, oh, I can fix the thing? So it's like I can do the whole thing, but the I is the problem. So then there's like this secret, dark suffering at the core, right? And so as you level up in life, something there happens, and it's not. It's more fluidic. You somehow get better at looking at love in all of its forms. And you just keep your mouth shut about it, and you sit and wait patiently because it is already happening. Over and over and over again, and it's okay. Wow. The sun, the thing by which I see all things, can blind me at just the right moment while I'm going around a corner, and boom, dead. Unless I have these sunglasses which block the light. And that's the type of like super unnatural situations that we get in, where because humanity has built trucks and sharp hairpin corners that stare directly into sunset, the rays of the sun are potentially, instead of life-giving and the source of clarity, can be blinding and confusing, and you could cause a car wreck. And so then people go, oh, the sun's bad. And so there's these invisible situations like that, right? Like that's happening in the quote-unquote the noetic realm. And when people are blind there, it's just comically stupid. They'll get sun blinded at a corner and not understand it and put up like a giant wall to block the sun. Or they won't drive there ever again at that time. Or they'll put armor over their eyes. Some of them might try and look directly at the sun and sort of adapt to it. There's all sorts of different ways you can respond to a situation like that. And if you're stupid, you might be like, oh, let's go like nuke the sun, or drive backwards, or like that's what it means when people are blind. Is that you'll get hit by a event, something will happen. Like the sun will cause, a traffic jam. And people will be like, well, let's get rid of the sun. Or let's go underground where the sun can't get to us. Or, they won't understand all the benefits and the nuances of the relationship. So they'll just respond to it in a really stupid way, like people getting sick, people getting colds, flus, people dying. Like they're blind to the web of interconnections between that thing, and so the solutions are just very like reflexive, and often stupid. Like just imagine solving problems that you can't see, you can't understand, you just know like a force or a pain came from that direction right then. So there's all these different stupid ways of like walling yourself off, or the thing would be to like become sensitive, to be more careful, to have the corner memorized, to like use the problem, to use the challenge to stimulate you for growth. Instead of doing that, then the knee-jerk reaction to like fix or do something. Like anytime you do something, the system's going to imbalance. And so everyone says this, right? Like everyone says it, but it's like, but it's like, do I actually believe it? And so people like it, like people get into public speaking and stuff when they figure out how to formulate beliefs that people already have, but like people that believe it, but they can't. There's like a certain level of like guilt, shame, and like how you conceptualize something. It has to plug into all these different mechanisms to like actually motivate the action. So that's what a motivational speaker is doing. Like if you go see Tony Robbins, it's not like he's teaching you something that you don't believe already. He's like connecting all of your beliefs to other things so that the action turns on. And so how you believe is actually important, right? Because it's like if you're believing correctly, then the energy just starts flowing on its own and the actions happen. And so that's the thing of like non-doing, or if you're in the flow state or whatever, like if your belief is correct, then that forms like a self-perpetuating, self-generating kind of electrical circuit. And if the belief is incorrect, then that doesn't happen. And then that means that since that's not happening, like you have to do something. You could do what is supposed to be happening, but it's like a very core, deep belief thing, right? Like just like if you really understand the nature of this problem, you would be like, oh, well, okay, my heart is disconnected from Christ, right? That's the source of all energy, all whatever. So you can go, I don't want to worry about anything else until my heart is directly plugged into God, right? I could say it in less specific terms. You would say, like, is belief connecting you to the source of all existence, the source of being, and where is it connecting you from? Like the heart, but also fractally everywhere. And so the way that you conceptualize that problem accurately is go, oh, why is my heart not connected to Christ? And it's usually a belief. It's not anything that you've done or might do or will do. It's what people would call a belief. And it's like wiring. You have a ton of room. Go. I think you have more space. What? Where?
Hanging out over there.
Oh.